So Stephen and I had this conversation one day. All right, we're done. We're leaving Shelby. We're going to go start this church. And so, of course, he needs somebody to, like, be his right-hand man, because for all of the strengths that he has that are spiritual and hearing from God and getting a vision and casting that vision, he knew that he needed help in actually carrying out this vision.
Hi, my name is Mark Batterson. I serve as lead pastor of National Community Church in Washington, D.C. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes, letting me hang out with you. We're going to talk for a few minutes about vision casting. I remember one of the most memorable sermon moments for me happened at a general council in Portland, Oregon. I was a kid practically, and it was one of my first councils, and one of the speakers was David Yonggi Cho, pastor of the largest church in the world. And I remember one line from that sermon. He said, "Show me your vision, and I'll show you your future." And it was such a powerful moment, and I think I knew that if God was going to use me, that I needed a vision from Him. And I think that began a journey for me of really trying to clarify what it was that the Lord had called me to. I would say right out of the gate that all of us have lots of different visions. You know, a vision for our life, for our families, for our ministries, and that's a good thing and a healthy thing. You know, an obvious question is, how do you get a vision? And that's beyond the scope of this particular video.
Anytime you cast vision, whether it's one-on-one, to a small group, or to your congregation, your vision casting needs to include these three components. And these are challenging. These are not easy to do. But if you will take the discipline, have the discipline and take the time to work through these three things, you will become, even if you're not a platform person, you will become a compelling vision caster.
Bill, when I say vision, what are the first things that come to mind?
I think it's the most powerful weapon in a leader's arsenal. I mean, certainly we need to build teams, solve problems, establish values. We need to do a lot of things, but you get to do those other things when you've already cast a vision that's put the whole organization in motion.
Vision casting is a completely unbiblical practice. First of all, nowhere is the concept mentioned in the Bible. Secondly, it implies that the pastor receives direct and new revelation from God. The assumption that the pastor's vision is divinely inspired carries with it prophetic implications. For example, in an infographic from Elevation Church called "The Best Place to Work," it says, "We serve a lead pastor who seeks and hears from God. This conveys a top-down leadership hierarchy led by one man who claims to have a direct line to God. This is a recipe for all kinds of spiritual abuse and historically has led to disaster."
We are united under one vision. Elevation is built on the vision God gave Pastor Stephen. We will aggressively defend our unity and that vision.
Pastor Eric Dykstra of the Crossing Church allegedly received his vision from God.
We are united under the visionary. Now, the visionary here is Eric. The Crossing is built on the vision that God gave Pastor Eric. Yeah. And we will aggressively defend that vision. Now, what does that mean? You aggressively defend that. That means that we do church the way he wants us to do it. And me as a campus pastor, I can't go up to Zimmerman and decide that I'm going to preach on Sunday, because that's not the vision that we have for this church that God gave to Eric. Mm-hmm. And we defend that when people go, well, maybe we should do it this way. And we're like, no, you don't understand. God gave Eric this vision. We do it this way. Because we don't want to argue with God, basically. We don't want to be like, Eric's not God. We're not saying Eric's God. He's not God.
Not God.
But he's got a vision from God, and we have decided with our lives that we're going to follow that vision, and we're going to stick to that. And if we ever just decide that we don't want to be a part of that vision, then we can go find a church and serve somewhere else. And that's okay. We're not telling anybody that they have to unite under this vision that Eric got from God. You can do whatever you want. But we think that it's a really cool vision. We're on board with it. And we're going to defend it, and we're going to stick to it.
So to argue with Eric is to argue with God. But these new revelations and visions contradict the doctrine of Jesus. Notice the church codes from both of these megachurches stated how the God-given vision of the pastor is to be aggressively defended.
And we will aggressively defend that vision.
We will aggressively defend our unity and that vision.
This means that the vision cannot be challenged. Any critique of the visionary is unacceptable, no matter how biblical that critique may be. To oppose the visionary is also to oppose God, because the vision supposedly came from God.
Well, let's talk about the other end of the continuum, those that are detractors, those that are fighting the vision. How do you deal with that side of the equation?
You know, test fly it, guinea pig it, do all that. And then when you have, when you're announcing a major new vision and you go through all these processes, then I love to say, now look, some of you are going to have a difficult time digesting all this. Mm-hmm. We're going to wait a week or so, and then we're going to have an open question and answer time down in our chapel. And we're going to listen to all of the concerns that you have about it.
Yeah.
Some of our best corrections have come by people who weren't really detractors. They were clarifiers. If you've done that 3 or 4 times and had all those Q&A times, and there are still some people who are, at that point, actual stone throwers. I mean, they're just going to dig in and make your life miserable. I have a couple of extra, even one-on-one meetings with them, and then my big line, you've heard me use it before, I say, all right, you don't agree with this vision. I'm asking you as a fellow believer, don't sin in your disagreement with this vision. Don't sin. And so I have had the conversation with people saying, do you have to leave the church so you won't sin? Or could you stay in the church and not sin? And people go, I guess I could stay here. I'm like,
yeah.
Good.
I mean, that's such a cool picture, because I think a lot of leaders are tempted to think that binary in this regard. Yeah. They either will buy into the vision, hook, line, sinker, the whole deal, or I just need to have them leave the church.
Yeah.
When in fact, you know, maybe success is that they didn't sin and kept an open mind and stayed in community. Maybe that's success for certain people.
Yeah.
Reject. Do I need to spell that out? Why? That's so cold. It's so wise. How much heartache I could have saved our church over the last 2 decades if I had lowered my expectation of my ability to change the behavior of others and raised my expectation that people will be as they have been. A factious man is a danger to the church, and you are released by Scripture to release him. And I'm releasing you to take a small portion of your church's budget, build a catapult, put it in the church parking lot, and load it regularly. I think we can shoot this one right out of our county. All right?
Here's what I've learned. You cast vision for your mission, and if people don't sign up, you move on. You move on. There are people that are going to die in the wilderness, and there are people that are going to take the hill. That's just how it is. Too many guys waste too much time trying to move stiff-necked, stubborn, obstinate people. I am all about blessed subtraction. There is a pile of dead bodies behind the Mars Hill bus, and by God's grace, it'll be a mountain by the time we're done. You either get on the bus or you get run over by the bus. Those are the options. But the bus ain't going to stop. And I'm just a guy who is like, look, we love you, but this is what we're doing. there's a few kind of people. There's people who get in the way of the bus. They got to get run over. There are people who want to take turns driving the bus. They got to get thrown off because they want to go somewhere else. There are people who will be on the bus, leaders and helpers and servants. They're awesome. There's also just sometimes nice people who sit on the bus and shut up. They're not helping or hurting. Just let them ride along.
Perry Noble says, a leader should never allow doubters to dictate the direction of their ministry. When God speaks, our obsession must be complete obedience. Peter the Apostle says, the elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder, and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed, feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. Paul also said, not for that we have dominion over your faith, but are helpers of your joy, for by faith ye stand. The church growth model of leadership is unbiblical and worldly. Jesus himself said, you know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But so shall it not be among you. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister, and whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all.